At Starlit Corner, a quaint little restaurant tucked away from the bustling city streets. One fateful encounter changes the course of 2 lives forever. A reserved, mysterious customer slips in every evening silently, watching the spirited waitress who seems to glow with kindness as she moves between the tables. Unbeknownst to her, he's a millionaire carrying a hidden past and an even more secret desire. Determined to be near her at any cost, he quietly purchases the entire restaurant. What follows is a whirlwind journey of love and ambition, filled with jealousy, heartbreak, and shocking revelations, where each twist pushes them closer to or further from the love they desperately crave. In the heart of Philadelphia, Starlit Corner sat quietly on Walnut Street, overshadowed by the city's iconic skyline. Owned by a sweet, gray-haired couple named Nadine and Charles Hathaway, the restaurant had built its reputation on home-cooked meals and a family-like atmosphere. It was the sort of place where neighbors congregated after church on Sundays, and college students found refuge during finals week. For Claire Thompson, a dedicated 24-year-old waitress with dreams of attending art school Starlit Corner, was more than just a job. It was her sanctuary. She had moved to Philadelphia straight out of community college, determined to forge her path. Her savings account was modest, her bills were many, but her hope burned bright. Art was her passion, and she clung to every tip, stuffing the crumpled bills into her art fund jar at home. From the moment she donned her apron in the morning, Claire poured her heart into every customer interaction. She greeted each patron by name if she knew it, flashed a genuine smile, and listened intently to their stories. Whether it was the widowed Ms. Garcia who craved clam chowder every Monday, or the young couple who studied biology textbooks over plates of pasta, Claire treated them all like cherished friends. Then one crisp autumn evening, a new face appeared, Jonas Reynolds. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a simple white shirt and dark jeans, he slipped in just before closing time. He chose a corner table by the window and placed an unassuming order, a bowl of soup and a soda. Yet from the moment Claire approached him, the air between them felt charged. His gaze lingered on her, full of a quiet curiosity that both intrigued and unsettled her. Claire tried to be professional, noting how his voice held a subdued warmth when he thanked her for the meal, but something about his demeanor piqued her interest. He barely spoke, yet his eyes followed her around the dining area, as though memorizing every detail. When he left, she discovered a $20 bill on a $10 check. It made her heart jolt generosity, like that wasn't entirely uncommon, but his tip felt strangely personal. Over the next few weeks, Jonas became a late-night fixture at Starlit Corner. He'd arrive near closing time, order something modest, and watch Claire with an intensity that melted her nerves and stirred something in her chest. The other waitstaff speculated wildly. Perhaps he was a struggling novelist, or a traveler between flights, or maybe even involved in some shady dealings. Claire only laughed, dismissing the rumors. In her eyes, Jonas was simply a polite customer, with a penchant for solitude and large tips. Little did Claire know that Jonas's quiet exterior masked a life of tumult and triumph. At 32, he was already a self-made millionaire, the founder of a tech startup on the brink of a major deal. He had grown up in Pittsburgh, idolizing real business icons like Warren Buffett, poring over their biographies late into the night. In many ways, he was still that wide-eyed kid, longing for financial security. But success had come with a price. The parties, the social climbing, the superficial relationships left him feeling emptier than ever. One night, after an exhausting meeting with venture capitalists, Jonas had wandered through Philadelphia's streets to clear his head. Drawn by the warm glow of starlit Corner's windows, he stepped inside and found himself entranced by Claire's unwavering optimism. Something about her spirit, her genuine warmth and refusal to treat him differently from any other customer, captivated him. He returned the next night and the next until a powerful realization hit him. He wanted more than just a passing connection. But how does a guarded millionaire approach the one person he fears might see him as just another wealthy man with an agenda? Uncertain of how to proceed, Jonas made a bold decision that would flip Claire's world upside down. He resolved to buy the very restaurant that had become her safe haven. Jonas's nightly visits soon became a topic of chatter among the staff. Everyone had a theory about the mysterious man in the corner booth. Some thought he might be a secret critic rating the restaurant for a blog. Others concocted more dramatic backstories involving mafia ties. Claire shrugged off the conspiracies, more amused than worried. She only knew that when Jonas was there, a strange mix of excitement and trepidation fluttered in her stomach. In his sleek penthouse overlooking Rittenhouse Square, Jonas wrestled with his growing infatuation. He found himself daydreaming about Claire's laugh, about the gentle way she helped the elderly customers step off high chairs, or how she intently listened whenever patrons needed an ear. He felt a twinge of jealousy whenever she exchanged friendly banter with a regular, an absurd reaction he knew, given they weren't even friends. Conflicted Jonas confided in his longtime friend and CFO Robert Caldwell. Over a late-night video call, he admitted, "I think I'm falling for a waitress at this restaurant I go to." He tried to laugh it off, but the sincerity in his voice made Robert's eyebrows shoot up. "You," Robert said in disbelief. The man who claims he's too busy building an empire to date Jonas only sighed. "I can't explain it. She's different. She's not like the women at those charity galas. She doesn't see me as a potential paycheck or a stepping stone. So ask her out." "What's the problem?" "The problem," Jonas replied, raking a hand through his hair, "is that I'm terrified she'll treat me differently when she learns about my money. And I'm not sure she'd even say yes. She's focused on her own dreams. I overheard her mentioning art school scraping together tuition. She doesn't need a wealthy guy swooping in." In truth, Jonas feared rejection even more than discovering Claire might only be interested in his wallet. He needed a way to remain close to her, secure in the knowledge that she'd still be herself, unburdened by any expectations about his wealth or status. That was how the idea of purchasing Starlit Corner took root. It was by all logical standards a hasty and ridiculous plan. But Jonas convinced himself that owning the restaurant would allow him to protect Claire's livelihood and ensure she never had to worry about the place shutting down or being sold to someone who didn't appreciate its charm. Without delay, he reached out to Linda Poole, a discreet real estate broker he had worked with on past property deals. Linda was known for her ability to keep secrets, a skill Jonas valued in this highly personal venture. When he explained his desire to buy Starlit Corner anonymously, Linda hesitated, but agreed. "This isn't your typical prime real estate investment, Jonas." Are you sure? Jonas's reply was unshakable. Positive. Linda soon discovered that Nadine and Charles Hathaway were indeed considering retirement. Their children had long pursued careers out of state, leaving no one to take over the family business. The Hathaways loved Starlit Corner, but age was catching up with them, and they knew a sale was inevitable. They were open to offers, provided the new owner kept the staff and protected the restaurant's cherished atmosphere. Thrilled by this stroke of luck, Jonas offered a figure far above the property's market value. He wanted to leave no room for hesitation. Linda skillfully orchestrated negotiations, ensuring Jonas's name remained in the shadows through the use of a shell corporation. Nadine and Charles, believing they had found a benevolent private buyer, prepared to sign. While the legal wheels turned behind closed doors, Claire remained unaware of the seismic shift about to shake her life. She clocked in every day, smiling for customers, bussing tables, and laughing with co-workers. Yet whenever Jonas appeared at his usual table, the energy between them crackled. She found herself lingering a moment too long when refilling his soda or sharing a genuine smile that made Jonas's heart pound. Soon the final documents were in place. With a few pen strokes, Jonas would become the official, albeit secret, owner of Starlit Corner. He told himself that it was merely a good deed, safeguarding a cozy little eatery from corporate takeover. But late at night, staring at the city lights from his penthouse, he knew the truth. It was all for her. Negotiations concluded with surprising speed. Nadine and Charles, relieved to find a buyer committed to preserving their life's work, prepared to hand over the keys. Linda Poole orchestrated the final inspection, ensuring that every detail met Jonas's demands for anonymity. If all went well by the end of the week, Starlit Corner would be his. Claire, meanwhile, carried on in blissful ignorance. One evening, Nadine gathered the staff for a private announcement. With tears in her eyes, she confessed that she and Charles were retiring and had found a buyer. Gasps spread across the room. Ricky, one of the cooks, looked stunned. Tiffany and Jackie, two fellow waitresses, exchanged worried glances. Claire's heart twisted, fearing what the future might bring. "Don't panic," Nadine assured them. "The new owner promises to keep the restaurant running as is and keep all of you on board." A cautious wave of relief followed. Still, the staff clamored for more details. Could they meet the mysterious buyer? Would the menu stay the same? Nadine only knew that the buyer was a private investor group, eager to maintain Starlit Corner's legacy. Suspicions rose. Ricky joked about the mafia again. Tiffany fretted about staff cuts, and Jackie speculated on whether it might be a chain restaurant planning a covert takeover. Claire struggled to concentrate that night, haunted by uncertainty. She pictured a faceless corporate tycoon stamping out the charm of Starlit Corner, maybe renaming it, or worse, firing staff to reduce costs. The restaurant was integral to her dreams. It helped pay her rent, kept her afloat, and offered a sense of belonging she craved. Even Jonas noticed Claire's unease. When he arrived for his late-night soup and soda, he found her smile less radiant, her eyes brimming with worry. He burned to tell her the truth, to reassure her that he had no intention of changing the place she loved. But fear of her reaction kept his lips sealed. Would she see his gesture as a violation, a manipulative play disguised as goodwill? Finally, the day of the sale arrived. Jonas signed the papers in Linda Poole's private office. No fanfare, no media coverage, just the quiet hum of an air conditioner and the scritch of pen on paper. The momentous occasion felt surreal. With a single signature, Jonas became the owner of Starlit Corner, a restaurant he'd known for only a handful of weeks, but cherished more than most of his previous acquisitions. That evening, he slipped into Starlit Corner near closing as usual. Claire greeted him, still in the dark, about the bombshell that had dropped. The staff suspected the sale was finalizing soon, but they had no idea the unsuspecting man in the corner was behind it all. As Claire refilled his glass, he cleared his throat. "Claire, can we talk?" Her eyes held gentle curiosity. "Sure. Let me finish up and I'll be right over." A few minutes later, she approached, setting aside her tray. Jonas's heart pounded. This was it, the moment he would tell her. He cast a quick glance around. Only Jackie remained in the back, tidying up the kitchen. "Claire, there's something I need to tell you," Jonas began. Voice hushed. I'm the new owner of Starlit Corner." Her reaction was immediate disbelief, flickered in her eyes, followed by confusion. "Wait, what are you talking about? I bought the restaurant. Nadine and Charles are retiring." He exhaled, releasing the secret he'd been holding. "I wanted to make sure it stayed open, and that you could keep your job." He couldn't finish because Claire took a step back. Her expression cycled through shock, hurt, and a glimmer of anger. "Jonas, why? How could you?" At that moment, Jackie poked her head out. "Everything okay?" she asked warily. Jonas forced a thin smile. "We're fine, Jackie. Just finishing up." But Claire was far from fine. Her thoughts raced the lavish tips, the lingering stares, the hush-hush sale. It all felt manipulative, even if she sensed Jonas's genuine affection. Suddenly, she wasn't sure what to feel. Gratitude, betrayal, or something in between. Jonas stood nervously, gripping his coat. "We can talk more tomorrow if you'd like. I just didn't want you to find out from someone else." Without waiting for a response, he left, leaving Claire frozen in the hush of the closing restaurant. She sank onto a nearby stool, her mind swirling with questions. Was this a grand, romantic gesture or an invasion of her cherished space? She didn't know. But one thing was certain: her life at Starlit Corner would never be the same. The next morning, tension hung in the air like a brewing storm. Word had spread Jonas Reynolds, previously, just that quiet guy who tipped well, was in fact the new owner. Whispers ran rampant among the waitstaff. Ricky griped about how millionaires bought everything in sight, while Tiffany openly worried about job security. Jackie cast Claire sympathetic looks, aware that this shift affected her the most. Claire arrived for her shift feeling off-kilter. She had barely slept, replaying Jonas's confession in her head. Part of her was touched. Jonas had stepped in to save the restaurant from an unknown future. But she also felt blindsided and maybe just a bit used. Did he think he could buy her affection by purchasing the place she loved? After the breakfast rush, Jonas called a quick staff meeting. Nadine and Charles stood beside him, trying to quell everyone's nerves. He spoke in a calm, measured voice. "I know this is a surprise. I promise I'm not here to uproot everything you've built. Nadine and Charles created something special. My goal is to maintain that, and maybe enhance it. No staff changes, no drastic menu alterations, no rebranding." Nadine and Charles smiled, relieved, while the employees applauded hesitantly. Claire lingered at the back, arms folded. She clapped politely, but kept her gaze lowered. When the meeting adjourned, the staff dispersed, and Jonas headed directly for Claire. "Can we talk in private?" he asked, voice subdued. She led him to a quiet booth in the corner, ironically the same booth he always chose. Sliding in opposite each other, they locked eyes. Claire forced herself to speak first. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Jonas glanced down. "I was afraid of how you'd react. I was worried you'd think it was creepy or that I was stepping on your independence." She folded her hands on the table. This place is important to me, Jonas. I want to trust you, but it feels like you took that decision away. Like you made this huge choice that affects all of us without giving me a heads up." His eyes flickered with regret. "I'm sorry. I truly didn't mean to hurt you or anyone else here. I only wanted to ensure your job was safe. I've seen so many places like this, swallowed by chains. I couldn't stand by and watch that happen, especially knowing how important it was to you." Claire let out a slow breath. "Okay, maybe I can understand that. But you have to promise transparency from now on. No more secrets. If you want to run this place, talk to us. Talk to me." Jonas nodded vigorously. "Deal. I'll be an open book." She managed a small smile, feeling some of the weight lift from her shoulders. Their conversation was interrupted by the lunch crowd trickling in. Claire stood to resume her shift, still grappling with her conflicting emotions. Jonas also rose, sliding out of the booth and quietly taking a spot where he could observe the flow of operations without intruding. As the lunch rush peaked, Jonas jumped in, where needed, assisting Ricky with a heavy food delivery, greeting a few customers with polite warmth, and even wiping down tables when they were short-staffed. Slowly, he revealed himself to be more than just a standoffish millionaire. He was hands-on, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in ensuring the restaurant ran smoothly. Yet not everyone was swayed. Tiffany, who had always harbored a streak of jealousy toward Claire's rapport with patrons, spread rumors that Claire was involved with Jonas. Snide remarks followed. No wonder she got the big tips. Claire caught these whispers, but shrugged them off, reminding herself that gossip always thrived in a place where people worked closely. By closing time, Claire felt mentally and emotionally drained. She spied Jonas tidying up some receipts at the front counter. For all the friction of the day, she couldn't ignore the fact that he'd done everything possible to stabilize the situation. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "Hey," she said softly. "Thanks for being patient with everyone." He offered a weary smile. "They're good people. This place matters to them." She nodded. "It does, and as long as you remember that, remember why you bought it in the first place, I think we'll be okay." Their gazes locked, tension crackling in the silence. She could sense his desire to say more, but a knock at the glass door startled them both. A late customer, or something else entirely. Claire's stomach twisted with a sudden, inexplicable apprehension. She shot Jonas a questioning look. Judging by the flicker of concern in his eyes, he felt it too. Little did they know that the drama unfolding behind the scenes, especially in Jonas's high-stakes tech world, was about to crash headlong into the sanctuary of Starlit Corner, threatening everything they were trying to build. The next few days saw a tentative normalcy return. Jonas established a routine. He divided his time between his tech startup, where major investors buzzed over the rumored success of his cutting-edge software, and the restaurant he had just acquired. His presence at Starlit Corner, once a quiet curiosity, now carried the weight of authority. The staff still adjusted to calling him boss, though Jonas insisted they treat him like anyone else. Most employees appreciated the upgrades he initiated: new kitchen appliances for Ricky, fresh uniforms for the waitstaff, and minor renovations to spruce up chipped paint and worn-out flooring. However, the more Jonas invested in the restaurant, the more questions bubbled beneath the surface. Why pour so many resources into a small diner that would never yield the profits his high-profile tech ventures did? Claire couldn't help but wonder the same thing. Whenever Jonas came in, her heart reacted before her mind could form a coherent thought. They'd shared private conversations, some about restaurant improvements, others about her art school dream. Each moment brought them closer, yet she remained cautious. There was an ever-present voice reminding her that he was her boss now, and lines could blur easily. One afternoon, Nadine tapped Claire on the shoulder while she restocked napkin dispensers. "Sweetheart, can I have a word?" Claire followed her to the quiet break room. Nadine folded her hands, her warm eyes tinged with concern. "I see how you look at Jonas. I know you two have some connection." Claire flushed. "Nadine, I don't know what you mean. He's just—" The older woman waved a hand gently. "Don't get me wrong, I'm not judging you. I'm just worried. Mixing work and personal feelings can be tricky. You're like a daughter to me. I'd hate to see you hurt." Claire nodded, grateful for Nadine's protective instincts. "I understand. I'm trying to keep things professional." She couldn't deny the spark between her and Jonas, though. Every time she thought about him, she remembered the night he confessed he was the new owner. His eyes had revealed an earnestness she seldom saw in anyone else. Yet with staff rumors swirling and Tiffany's passive-aggressive remarks, it was harder than ever to ignore the potential fallout. Later that same day, Jonas called Claire into the office previously, Nadine's now technically his. She found him hunched over a spreadsheet, frustration etched on his features. "Hey," she greeted softly. "Everything all right?" He leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Working on a new marketing plan. Thought maybe we could promote weekly specials or do a small event to attract new customers, but the numbers aren't lining up as I hoped." Claire took a seat across from him, scanning the papers. "If our aim is to keep the place authentic, maybe we focus on what's always worked, the cozy ambience, homemade recipes. Those are draws you can't replicate in a chain." Jonas perked up, scribbling notes. "You're right. Lean into the charm that's already here, emboldened." Claire continued. "We could host a small art exhibit. 2. Local artists or even students from Temple or the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. It'd bring in a creative crowd and we could sell a few pieces." He flashed a warm smile. "That's brilliant. You see, this is why I need your input." Her cheeks heated, and for a moment neither spoke. It struck Claire how natural it felt brainstorming with him like partners rather than boss and employee. The tension of the day ebbed, replaced by a quiet understanding. Then a sudden rap at the door interrupted them. Robert Caldwell stepped in, exuding an air of urgency. He was tall and severe-looking, his wire-rimmed glasses reflecting the overhead light. Robert and Claire exchanged polite nods, but he wasted no time. "Jonas, we need you at the office. There's a development with the Behringer deal. They want an in-person demonstration tomorrow." Jonas closed the laptop, the worry returning to his face. "Can we push it?" Robert shook his head. "Not unless we want them to walk. We can't afford that our entire expansion hinges on this." Claire sensed Jonas's struggle. She also sensed Robert's thinly veiled disapproval of Jonas's involvement in a pet project like Starlit Corner. With a nod, Jonas stood. "All right, I'll go." He turned to Claire with a regretful smile. "Sorry to cut this short. Keep those ideas flowing, okay?" She managed a small nod. "Sure. Good luck with your meeting." As Jonas and Robert rushed out, Claire's chest tightened with an inexplicable fear. She knew Jonas's life in the tech world was fast-paced and cutthroat. Could the pressures of that arena bleed into their little restaurant? She wanted to believe it was safe here, that Jonas's presence would only strengthen Starlit Corner. But she had a nagging feeling that trouble lurked around the corner. That trouble came sooner than she anticipated. The next morning, while accepting a delivery of fresh produce, Claire overheard 2 men in suits loitering near the entrance. They whispered about the new boss and sensitive documents. One glanced at Claire, then quickly looked away. She felt a chill skirt down her spine. She reported the incident to Nadine, who dismissed it with a nervous laugh. Probably just lost salesman. We get all types. But the uneasy feeling wouldn't leave Claire, especially when she realized Jonas was at his downtown office, finalizing a high-stakes tech deal. In that moment, Claire understood that the restaurant was no longer a world apart from Jonas's corporate battles. The lines were blurred, the stakes too high, and she had a sinking premonition that those men in suits were merely the first wave of a storm set to test everyone's loyalties. In the hectic days that followed, Claire found herself increasingly entangled in Jonas's world. He called her between investor meetings to check on the restaurant, to ask her opinion on decor, or simply to hear her voice. She tried to keep a professional tone, but after the third or fourth call, their conversations spilled into personal territory. Her half-finished canvases at home, his memories of a humble upbringing in Pittsburgh, her fear of being locked out of her artistic future by financial constraints. Despite this budding connection, Claire remained guarded. The rumors swirling among co-workers only intensified. Tiffany openly insinuated that Claire was receiving special treatment. Jackie, though more supportive, warned her to tread carefully. At least Ricky didn't seem to care. He was thrilled about the improved kitchen appliances and new recipes Jonas agreed to fund. One grey afternoon, while Jonas was away at a conference, Claire decided to stay late to catch up on her painting. Nadine, noticing Claire's fatigue, urged her to lock up by 9 o'clock. "You work too hard, sweetheart," Nadine chided. "Get some rest." Claire promised she would, but her mind buzzed with creative ideas. After everyone left, she retrieved her portable easel from her car and set it up in the dining area near the soft glow of the neon sign outside. For the next hour, she lost herself in brushstrokes, capturing the flickering city lights on canvas. Art was her solace, her meditation. So absorbed was she that she didn't notice Jonas slip in through the front door. He froze, watching her in quiet awe as she swept color across the canvas with sure, graceful movements. Eventually, she sensed his presence and nearly jumped out of her skin. "Jonas, you scared me." "Sorry," he said, raising his hands apologetically. "I didn't mean to sneak up on you. I was coming by to pick up some paperwork. Didn't expect to find you here." He moved closer, studying her painting. "That's really beautiful," he murmured. It was a vibrant interpretation of Philadelphia's skyline with a swirl of blues and golds. "You're talented." Warmth spread through Claire at his praise. "Thanks," she replied, her heart fluttering in a maddening way. "It's just a rough sketch." He crouched beside her, transfixed by the canvas. "Rough or not, you have a gift." His voice softened. "Why not apply to that art school sooner, if it's what you really want?" She sighed, setting her paintbrush down. "Tuition's expensive. I refuse to drown in debt, so I wait tables to save as much as I can." Jonas lowered his gaze, caught in a moment of indecision. She could almost see him fighting the urge to offer financial help. Instead, he said, "I admire you for doing it on your own terms." They locked eyes, a gentle hush binding them together. Then, without warning, the door behind them burst open, Tiffany returning because she'd forgotten her phone. She stopped, cold eyes darting between Claire and Jonas on the floor, the easel that charged silence. A smirk curled on her lips, and she arched an eyebrow. "Am I interrupting something?" Heat flooded Claire's cheeks. Jonas stood clearing his throat. "We were just talking. Claire's finishing up her painting." Tiffany shrugged. "Right. Well, don't let me stop you two." She retrieved her phone from behind the counter, casting a pointed glance over her shoulder as she left. The unspoken implication hung in the air. She thinks we're together, Claire realized with a twinge of embarrassment. Claire began to pack up her art supplies. The moment shattered. Jonas sensed her tension and gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Claire, don't worry about what she thinks. She mustered a faint smile. I know. She's already spreading rumors. She can talk all she wants, Jonas said, voice soft but firm. I care about what you think. Are you okay with us, this closeness, if it bothers you? No, she blurted, surprising even herself. It doesn't bother me. I just don't want it complicating my job or your ownership of this place. He nodded, understanding etched on his face. I get it. We can be discreet. She exhaled, fighting the swirl of emotions. Maybe that's best for now. They shared a final look that was equal parts longing and restraint. Claire lugged her easel out to her car, and Jonas locked up behind them. Despite the awkward interruption, she couldn't ignore the warmth emanating from his every word. How he really seemed to see her not just as an employee or a pretty face, but as a person with dreams and fears. But the complexities of their situation loomed larger every day. Claire was no stranger to heartbreak. She'd heard cautionary tales of boss-employee romances. Still, as she drove home that night, replaying the moment when he admired her painting, Claire allowed herself a small flicker of hope. If only hope were enough to stave off the threats lurking beyond the restaurant's cozy walls. Threats tied to Jonas's cutthroat tech empire, where rivals and deal-breakers abounded. Little did Claire know that danger was about to creep into Starlit Corner in a way that would test them both more than ever before. Friday arrived with a burst of autumn sunshine, and Claire ended her shift on a strangely optimistic note. Jonas had asked if she'd join him for coffee at a nearby cafe after she clocked out an innocent request, but one that set her heart racing. They agreed to meet away from Starlit Corner to avoid fueling rumors. Nervous butterflies fluttered in her stomach all day. The late lunch crowd waned around 3 p.m., leaving only a few stragglers. Claire was wiping tables when Jackie called out, "Claire, could you cover me for a second? I need to check the back storage." "Sure," she replied, moving to the hostess stand. As she arranged menus, the front door swung open. She glanced up, expecting a customer, but her heart skipped when she saw the uniformed police officers stepping inside. One of them, Detective Harmon, recognized Claire immediately. "Afternoon, miss. We're looking for the owner." Her pulse jumped. "Jonas." "He's not here right now. Is something wrong?" The detective's expression was grave. "We received a report of a possible break-in attempt last night. The alarm system tripped after closing, but by the time patrol arrived, the doors were locked and nothing seemed out of place. The new security logs indicate someone tried to breach the office door." Claire's stomach twisted. She hadn't closed the restaurant the previous night. Nadine and Charles had. "Was anything stolen?" "We're not sure yet," Harmon replied, glancing around the dining area. "We wanted to speak with Mr. Reynolds about upgrading security. Given some external factors surrounding his other business ventures, we suspect this might not be random." She felt a cold chill. Jonas had mentioned receiving vague threats at his tech company, but she'd brushed it off as normal corporate rivalry. Could it be that those threats were escalating? Jonas should be back soon. Claire managed her voice, quivering. "I'll let him know you came." Detective Harmon nodded, handing her a business card. "Tell him to call me. And in the meantime, if you or any of the staff notice anything unusual, strange phone calls, suspicious activity, dial 911 immediately." After they left, Jackie approached with wide eyes. "Claire, what on earth was that about?" She swallowed, forcing a reassuring smile. Just the police being cautious. The rest of the afternoon dragged on in a haze. Claire's excitement about meeting Jonas later was tainted by this unsettling news. She tried to focus on her tasks, but a gnawing unease lingered. At last, her shift ended. She grabbed her coat and headed out, finding Jonas already waiting in his black sedan by the curb. He flashed a grin that faded the moment he noticed her troubled expression. "Hey, what happened?" She slid into the passenger seat, inhaling sharply. 2 officers came by. Detective Harmon. They said there was a break-in attempt last night. Something about your business dealings possibly being involved. Jonas's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This is getting out of hand. He took a measured breath and started driving. I'll call Harmon. Let's talk about it after coffee, okay? She nodded, the tension rolling off him, only adding to her worry. They drove in silence to a quaint cafe, known for its homemade pastries. Claire led Jonas to a small table in the back, away from prying eyes. Over steaming lattes, he explained that his tech startup was on the verge of securing a massive deal, one that would put him in direct competition with a larger firm. I've been getting anonymous threats, he admitted, swirling the foam on his latte. Emails telling me to back out or risk sabotage. At first, I brushed them off as empty scare tactics. But now... He trailed off, and Claire reached out, covering his hand with hers. You think they're targeting Starlit Corner to get to you? He nodded grimly. It's possible. They must have discovered my connection to the restaurant, especially after the sale was finalized. Claire's voice wavered. But this place, it's supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be ours. His gaze softened. I'm sorry, Claire. I never intended to bring that world here. He squeezed her hand. I'll call in more security talk to the police. We'll do whatever it takes to keep everyone safe. They fell silent, the hum of cafe chatter swirling around them. Claire felt torn, relieved that Jonas was taking steps to protect the restaurant, yet uneasy that such measures were necessary. Outside, the sky had darkened with an approaching storm, mirroring the dread in her heart. When they finished, Jonas walked her to her car. The moment felt painfully short and overshadowed by the looming threat. He hesitated, then pulled her into a gentle embrace. She closed her eyes, allowing herself a second of warmth against the chill reality. Thank you for standing by me, he whispered against her hair. I'll make this right. She nodded, throat tight. I know you will. Little did they realize the shadowy forces gathering strength. By the time Jonas called Detective Harmon later that night, it was already too late. A chain of events had been set into motion, one that would soon put Claire and everyone at Starlit Corner squarely in the crosshairs of a ruthless rival determined to bring Jonas Reynolds to his knees. Dark clouds swarmed overhead the following day, rain hammering the streets of Philadelphia. The dreary weather matched the somber mood at Starlit Corner, where nervous staff exchanged worried glances. News of the attempted break-in spread quickly, and even the most optimistic employees fretted about their safety. Mid-morning, while Claire carried a tray of coffee cups to a bustling table of regulars, her phone buzzed on the hostess stand. She excused herself, heart pounding, when she saw it was Jackie, texting from the back office. Claire, you need to see this. She hurried to the office, finding Jackie pale-faced, holding a sealed envelope. This was in the mailbox this morning, Jackie said, voice shaky. Addressed to you. Claire frowned, carefully opening the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. Tell your boss to back out of his deal, or your beloved diner goes up in smoke." She gasped, nearly dropping the paper. Jackie's eyes brimmed with fear. Claire's mind spun. She'd never been personally threatened before. Her first instinct was to call Jonas, but she knew he was in an important investor meeting. Summoning courage, she took the note to Nadine and Charles, who immediately insisted on calling the police. Detective Harmon arrived within the hour, collecting the letter in a plastic evidence bag. As we feared, Harmon remarked, grimacing, "They're escalating. Do you have any idea who might be behind this?" Claire bit her lip. Jonas mentioned a competitor, someone who wants him to back out of a big tech deal. "But we don't have names." Harmon nodded, scribbling in his notebook. "We'll do what we can. My advice is to tighten security further. Maybe hire a guard at night." Nadine and Charles exchanged anxious looks. Claire's heart fluttered with a sense of helplessness. She knew how vital Starlit Corner was to them, how it represented their life's work. To see it threatened made her blood boil. Jonas arrived late in the afternoon, drenched from the rain and carrying a stack of business papers. Claire rushed to meet him at the door, pulling him aside to share the note's contents. His reaction was immediate. His face hardened and he clenched his fists. "This has gone far enough," he growled. "They're threatening innocent people. How are we supposed to stop them?" Claire asked, voice trembling. "We don't even know who they are." Jonas slammed his briefcase onto a table. "I have contacts. I'll hire private security. We'll upgrade everything, cameras, alarm systems, even get someone to patrol the perimeter overnight." He looked at her eyes, brimming with anger and concern. "I won't let them hurt you or anyone else here." Claire's chest constricted. The vow in his voice was genuine protective. Despite her fear, she felt a rush of warmth at his resolve. Maybe, just maybe, they could weather this storm together. But Jonas's battle extended beyond the restaurant. That evening, he huddled with Robert Caldwell in the office, discussing the precarious state of his tech negotiations. Claire overheard snippets of their conversation. Harrison's firm, sabotage, blackmail, names she didn't recognize. Yet she sensed the gravity in every hushed sentence. At closing time, Jonas insisted on driving Claire home. She agreed, too rattled to argue. Rain battered the windshield as they wound through slick streets, headlights cutting through the gloom. In the quiet confines of the car, she finally dared ask Jonas, "Are we safe?" "Really?" He gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. "I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe. But I won't lie. These people mean business. They're ruthless." She swallowed hard. "Maybe we should close the restaurant for a while, until things calm down." Jonas's jaw tensed. "I thought about that. But then we'd be letting them win. And it would hurt Nadine Charles and the staff who rely on tips and wages." Claire nodded sadly, understanding the dilemma. When he pulled up in front of her apartment building, the rain showed no sign of letting up. He put the car in park, turning to face her. "Claire," he said softly, "I know I've complicated your life. If you want space or to quit." She cut him off, her hand finding his in the darkness of the car. "Don't even think about that. Starlit Corner is like my home. And..." She paused, heat flooding her face. "You matter to me, Jonas." He exhaled, lifting her hand to his lips. "You matter to me too, more than you realize." A lingering glance passed between them. She fought the urge to lean in to close the distance that felt electric. But the fear of crossing lines still flickered in her mind. At last she whispered goodnight and dashed through the rain to her door, leaving Jonas to fight battles in both the tech world and the quiet diner they both cherished. Had she known how close danger really was, she might never have left his side that night. In the shadows, the people aiming to destroy Jonas's life were circling, and starlit Corner stood at the center of their bullseye. 2 days later, the unthinkable happened. It was a busy Sunday morning. Families packed the booths, the kitchen sizzled with orders, and coffee flowed in endless streams. Claire, balancing a tray stacked with pancakes, felt a sudden jolt under her feet. At first, she assumed it was just a clumsy patron bumping into her. But then came a second jolt. The glasses on the counter rattled. Earthquake. Ricky shouted from the kitchen, wide-eyed. Philadelphia wasn't known for seismic activity, but everyone froze, bracing for another tremor. Instead, the front windows exploded inward. A large rock, wrapped in a piece of paper, crashed onto the floor, sending shards of glass everywhere. Customers screamed, ducking for cover. Claire dropped her tray, heart pounding. Chaos erupted. Nadine rushed to comfort an elderly customer who'd toppled from her chair. Charles darted to the phone to call the police. Claire crouched behind the hostess stand, her pulse thundering in her ears. She could hear children crying, dishes smashing. Then she spotted the paper-wrapped rock on the floor, the cause of this chaos. Summoning her courage, she crept forward, ignoring the crunch of glass under her shoes. Carefully, she unwrapped the blood-stained note. Last warning. Get out now, or next time you won't be so lucky. Tears of anger and shock blurred her vision. Before she could process it fully, Jonas burst into the restaurant, having just arrived for a meeting. He scanned the devastation, shattered windows, trembling customers and employees trying to regain order. Claire, he shouted, eyes wild with worry. She looked up, clutching the threatening note in her shaking hand. He rushed over, arms enveloping her in a protective embrace. Around them, Starlit Corner's cheery ambience lay in ruins, glass shards glittering on checkered floors. The police and paramedics arrived minutes later, questioning witnesses and treating minor injuries. Detective Harmon appeared, jaw set in a grim line, as he surveyed the destruction. It was a small miracle no one was seriously hurt, but the message was clear: the attackers weren't bluffing. Jonas spoke with Harmon, outside voice low but furious. Claire, meanwhile, helped Nadine and Charles calm traumatized customers and staff. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the acrid sting of fear. Tiffany hovered nearby, tears staining her cheeks. Jackie tried to comfort her, while Ricky helped paramedics check on a frail older patron. Eventually, Jonas signaled for Claire to join him in the corner of the restaurant, which was now cordoned off by police tape. Nadine and Charles hovered close, too distraught to leave. "We have to shut down temporarily," Jonas said, voice steely. "This is a crime scene, and I can't risk anyone else getting hurt." Nadine's face fell, but Charles nodded solemnly. Claire's throat tightened. Starlit Corner had never closed its doors, not even during blizzards or holiday storms. But the violence was no longer theoretical. It had smashed its way in. "How long?" Claire asked, her voice trembling. Jonas raked a hand through his hair. "At least until we replace the windows and ensure security is airtight. But more importantly, we have to root out whoever's behind this." Detective Harmon stepped over, flipping through his notes. "We'll increase patrols, but I strongly recommend private security. Given the nature of Mr. Reynolds's other business dealings, this might continue to escalate." Jonas exchanged a look with Claire, and she saw guilt and anguish shining in his eyes. She knew he blamed himself. He'd brought his high-stakes tech rivalries into a small, family-owned restaurant. Now innocent people were in harm's way. She laid a hand on his shoulder. "We'll get through this. Together." He placed his hand over hers, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I'll pay everyone's wages during the closure. Don't worry about that," he promised Nadine and Charles. "You've all stood by me, and I won't let you suffer for my problems." Nadine burst into relieved tears. Charles patted Jonas's arm gratefully. A shaky sense of solidarity swept through the group. Even Tiffany, who often threw snide remarks, offered a quiet nod of thanks. But as the adrenaline subsided, Claire felt a creeping dread. Would these threats ever stop? Would the people behind them settle for anything less than total surrender? She had no answers. Only Jonas's resolute vow that he would protect them all. The next morning, the restaurant remained dark, its broken windows boarded up. A spray-painted sign read, "Closed for repairs, we'll be back soon." Yet for Claire, the idea of coming back soon felt more uncertain than ever. As she watched workers hammer boards into place, she silently hoped that Jonas's determination and their growing bond would be enough to weather the storm. With Starlit Corner closed for repairs, the staff scattered. Some took temporary gigs elsewhere. Others used the unexpected downtime as a break. Claire felt lost without her daily routine, pacing her cramped studio apartment with mounting anxiety. She couldn't stop replaying the scene of shattered glass and terrified screams. Jonas, true to his word, made sure everyone was paid. He'd also hired a private security firm to guard the restaurant at night. But with no leads from the police, frustration brewed. Every phone call between Claire and Jonas carried an undercurrent of desperation. The tension of not knowing when or if the criminals would strike again gnawed at them both. One day, Jonas called unexpectedly. "I'm sending a car for you. Can you be ready in an hour?" Claire's heart skipped. "Why? What's going on?" He exhaled softly. "I just need to see you. Please." The longing in his voice was unmistakable. Despite her lingering fears, she agreed hastily, changing into a comfortable sweater and jeans. When the sleek black sedan arrived, she slid into the back seat, her pulse pounding with uncertainty. 30 minutes later, the car glided up to a familiar curb, Starlit Corner. She frowned, noticing the boards still covering the broken windows. A solitary security guard stood out front, nodding as the car approached. Jonas emerged from the restaurant's dim interior, wearing a simple flannel shirt and jeans, an odd contrast to his usual polished attire. His posture was tense, but relief filled his face when he saw Claire. "I had the guard let me in," he explained, offering a tentative smile. "I wanted to show you something." Her eyes darted around the gloom. It felt eerie stepping back into a place that had been alive with warmth and chatter just days ago. Now it lay silent, except for a few scattered chairs and the hum of a fridge in the kitchen. Jonas led her to the corner booth where he'd first confessed his ownership. A single candle flickered on the table, casting dancing shadows. On the seat there was a bouquet of delicate lilies and a small sketch pad. Claire's breath caught in her throat. "Jonas, what is this?" He turned to her. Vulnerability etched on his features. "I can't change what happened, but I wanted to remind you why we're fighting to save this place, because it means so much. To Nadine and Charles, to the staff, and to us." Her chest tightened at the word us. She ran her fingers over the lilies, tears prickling behind her eyes. In the stark reality of boarded windows and looming threats, This gentle gesture felt like a lifeline. He gestured to the sketchpad. I bought this for you. I thought maybe if you feel safe enough, you could try capturing the restaurant in your art show, what it means to you. So we never forget why it's worth saving. Emotions swelled in her gratitude, love, fear, and the ache of uncertainty. Without thinking, she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around his waist. Jonas stiffened, then enveloped her in a warm hug. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the thud of his heartbeat. "Thank you," she whispered, clinging to him. "For not giving up on Starlit Corner. Or on me." He pressed a soft kiss to the top of her head. "I'll never give up on you, Claire." In that moment, the tension of the past weeks melted away, replaced by the undeniable current of their connection. She lifted her gaze, and he met her halfway, their lips brushing in a gentle, tentative kiss. It was a delicate moment, born from relief and yearning, sealed in the candlelit quiet of a restaurant under siege. When they parted, her cheeks flushed. I wasn't sure if we'd cross that line." His gaze held hers. "I've wanted to for a while. I just didn't want to complicate things for you." Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled through them. "Things are already complicated. But I don't care. Not if it means we're in this together." He squeezed her hand. "We are. Always." They spent the next hour sitting side by side in the booth. Claire opened the sketchpad, letting her pencil dance across the pages. Jonas watched in fascination, occasionally describing his own vision for the restaurant, once it reopened local art displays on the walls. Live music nights, maybe even a small scholarship fund for aspiring artists like Claire. For the first time in days, hope flickered. The future felt less daunting, as if their love could somehow shield them from the storm raging outside. And yet at the back of Claire's mind, the warnings still lurked. The people who smashed the windows and hurled threats wouldn't simply vanish because she and Jonas found each other's embrace. Before they left, Jonas turned off the single candle, plunging the restaurant back into darkness. He paused, taking one last look at the boarded windows and the silent tables. "We'll make it shine again," he vowed quietly. Claire slipped her hand into his, her voice firm. "Yes, we will." They stepped out into the cool night air, the security guard nodding a goodbye. As the sedan pulled away, Claire rested her head on Jonas's shoulder, letting the city lights blur into a comforting backdrop. For one fragile moment, she allowed herself to believe that love was enough to conquer any threat. Neither realized that a pair of watchful eyes tracked them from a parked car down the street, phone camera clicking in the darkness. Their every move was being monitored, their private moment recorded. And soon enough, the next blow would fall, threatening not only the restaurant, but the very bond they had just begun to embrace. The morning after that stolen evening in Starlit Corner, Claire woke to a barrage of missed calls and frantic texts from Jackie. Her heart lurched, fearing more bad news about the restaurant. Hastily, she rang Jackie back. Jackie's voice trembled. "Claire, you need to see the news. Go online." Flipping open her laptop, Claire discovered an article in a local business journal. The headline blared, "Tech mogul Jonas Reynolds in shady restaurant ownership source alleges personal motivations." The piece included blurred photos of Jonas kissing Claire inside the darkened diner, plus snide references to how he'd secretly purchased Starlit Corner, suggesting impropriety and a potential scandal that might affect his big tech deal. Claire felt nauseous. Someone had spied on them, twisting their closeness into a salacious narrative. As she scrolled, hateful comments piled up. Accusations that she was a gold digger, that Jonas was unethical, that the restaurant was just a cover for shady transactions. Her phone buzzed again, Jonas's name flashing on the screen. She answered, trying not to cry. "Jonas, have you seen?" He cut her off gently. "Yes." "I'm so sorry, Claire. They're digging up anything to sabotage the Beringer deal. Robert's freaking out, investors are calling me non-stop. And now you're getting dragged into it." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "This is awful. The article calls me some unknown waitress, like I'm a toy you bought along with the restaurant." Jonas's voice flared with anger. "I won't let them smear you like this. We'll issue a statement truthful but controlled. If I play it right, it could work in our favor, showing we're transparent." Claire feared the attention would only escalate the threats against Starlit Corner. But Jonas insisted. "We can't let them dominate the narrative. Trust me." With her heart pounding, she agreed to meet him downtown at his startup's office. The sleek building offered a stark contrast to the warm vibes of the restaurant. Security guards checked her in, glancing at her curiously. By the time she reached Jonas's floor, she felt entirely out of place. Robert Caldwell greeted her with a curt nod. "Claire, I'm Robert. I handle PR as well as finances." He gestured to a glass-walled conference room. "Jonas is waiting inside." She followed, steeling herself. Inside, Jonas' paced phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call abruptly and turned to Claire, tension carving deep lines in his face. "I spoke to Beringer's rep. They're concerned about instability and negative press. If we don't address this scandal quickly, they might back out." Claire's stomach churned. "So what do we do?" Robert laid out a plan, a carefully worded press release acknowledging Jonas's purchase of Starlit Corner. And his relationship with Claire only in its earliest stages, he emphasized to frame it as a heartfelt investment, not a secretive ploy. They'd highlight Jonas's philanthropic side, how he wanted to preserve a local treasure. Claire was to play a limited role, mostly confirming that she wasn't coerced or seeking financial gain. The very idea of baring her private life to the media felt surreal. She glanced at Jonas, her eyes pleading. "Do I have to do this?" He took her hand, ignoring Robert's disapproving glance at the gesture. "It's your call, Claire. I don't want to force you into anything." She inhaled, summoning courage. "I'll do it if it means saving the restaurant and stopping the threats." Robert nodded briskly. "All right. Let's finalize the wording." For the next hour, Claire found herself swept into a whirlwind of corporate PR strategy, something she never dreamed she'd experience. As they deliberated language and potential Q&A points, her phone buzzed with messages of support from Jackie and Ricky. Another from Tiffany, who shockingly wrote, "Hang in there. We know you're not some gold digger." That small show of solidarity strengthened Claire's resolve. They finished drafting the statement just in time for Jonas to dash into a meeting with Beringer's representatives. Robert escorted Claire to a smaller lounge offering water. She sank into a plush chair, mind spinning. This was what Jonas's world looked like, flashes of crisis maneuvers, damage control, and the constant fear of betrayal. No wonder he seemed so guarded when they first met. In that moment, she understood the immense weight he carried, and a surge of sympathy flooded her. Time crawled. Eventually, Jonas emerged from the meeting exhaustion etched in every line of his body. He mustered a tired smile for Claire. "It's done. Beringer's taking a wait-and-see approach, but they haven't pulled out yet. The statement goes public in an hour. She approached him, resting a hand on his arm. "You did it. We'll face whatever comes next." His eyes shone with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "I hate that you're caught up in this. All I ever wanted was to protect you." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "I don't need protecting from you, Jonas. I just need honesty. We're in this together. Remember?" He nodded, pulling her into a fleeting hug. Robert cleared his throat from across the room, reminding them of the precarious environment. Claire withdrew, cheeks flushing. The lines between personal and professional had never felt so blurred. Soon the PR team deployed the statement, and Jonas's phone lit up with calls from reporters. Claire slipped out, not wanting to hear them dissect her life. She made her way outside, the crisp city air hitting her face. Only then did she notice a figure standing across the street, partially hidden behind a newspaper stand. Her blood ran cold. It was the same wiry man who'd confronted her weeks ago at the restaurant with threats to Jonas. He smirked when their eyes met, then disappeared into the crowd. Claire's heart hammered. She fumbled for her phone, texting Jonas a warning. "He's here. One of them watching the building." Moments later, Jonas burst through the lobby doors, scanning the busy sidewalk, but the man was gone, leaving only a rising sense of dread. Claire clung to Jonas's arm. "This won't end, will it?" He shook his head grimly. "Not until we stop them for good." In the swirl of corporate scandal and personal threats, one truth crystallized. Their enemies were everywhere, ready to exploit any weakness. The time had come to confront them directly, or risk losing not just Starlit Corner, but each other. As chaos threatened to consume them, Jonas and Claire rallied every resource to protect the restaurant and their future. Detective Harmon escalated the investigation, aided by evidence from Jonas's cybersecurity team. The local media latched on to the narrative of a tech mogul's heartfelt investment in a small diner, swaying public sympathy in their favor. Berenger, seeing the tide of public opinion, extended a cautious second chance if Jonas could resolve the ongoing threats quickly. Meanwhile, Starlit Corner's repairs proceeded at a frantic pace. Jonas insisted on handling the costs, personally upgrading the entire security system, installing shatterproof glass, and hiring overnight guards. Nadine and Charles watched in awe, hearts heavy with worry, yet buoyed by hope. They'd spent decades nurturing the restaurant's warm atmosphere, and the thought of losing it to violence gnawed at them. Finally, Detective Harmon got a breakthrough. A suspect linked to Jonas's rival James Harrison had been identified from surveillance near the restaurant. Warrants were issued, arrests made. Jonas, refusing to cower, held a small press conference outside the newly repaired diner. With Claire at his side, he declared, "Starlit Corner is more than a restaurant. It's a symbol of community and perseverance. We will not be intimidated. We will remain open to serve our neighbors, to employ our amazing staff, and to stand for what's right." Cheers erupted from the small crowd, loyal customers, staff curious onlookers. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment Claire gently squeezed Jonas's hand. There would still be rumors, but now there was also an outpouring of public support. For the first time since the threats began, Claire felt a surge of optimism. Days later, the diner reopened with a celebratory event. Streamers and balloons adorned the entrance. A local jazz trio played soft tunes in the corner. Regulars lined up to show solidarity. Even Tiffany put on a bright smile as she served customers, the tension between her and Claire seemingly forgotten. Jonas personally greeted patrons from old-timers to newly curious residents drawn by the media coverage. Ricky beamed in the kitchen, boasting about their newly expanded menu. Jackie ushered people to tables, explaining the restaurant's improved security measures. Nadine and Charles quietly watched, tears of joy in their eyes. As the night wound down, Claire found Jonas near the kitchen door, gazing at the crowd with obvious relief. She slipped her arm through his. "Told you we'd come back stronger." He turned to her, heart in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it alone." They wandered to a newly decorated corner booth, Jonas's old perch. Outside, the neon sign glowed, inviting customers in from the crisp Philadelphia air. Claire marveled at how far they'd come from that first day he'd quietly observed her to this triumphant moment. "Claire," he said, voice low, "I've been thinking about everything that's happened. The threats, the articles, the break-in. You stood by me through all of it." Her heart fluttered. "We stood by each other." He took her hands. "I want to keep doing that forever. I know it's fast and we have so much to figure out. But I love you more than I've ever loved anyone." Tears sprang to her eyes. "Jonas." Before she could respond, the restaurant's overhead lights dimmed slightly. Nadine's subtle signal that closing time approached. Soft laughter spread among the final patrons. Claire's thoughts whirled, but in her heart clarity reigned. Jonas had risked his reputation, his wealth, even his safety, all to protect the place she loved and the people within it. She saw in him not just a savior or a wealthy suitor, but a partner who respected her independence and dreams. She squeezed his hands, a tremulous smile breaking through. "I love you too. And, yes, let's figure out forever together." His grin lit up the dim booth. They leaned in, sharing a tender kiss that sealed their vow in the warm glow of starlit corner. Around them, the clinking of silverware, the murmur of contented diners, and the distant jazz notes formed the soundtrack of a new beginning, one built on resilience, loyalty, and a love that refused to be shaken by any threat. In the coming months, Jonas finalized his tech deal, establishing a comfortable balance between his corporate empire and the humble diner that held his heart. Claire continued saving for art school, though now she had Jonas's unwavering support, and Starlit Corner flourished busier than ever, as curious locals flocked to taste the famed home cooking and maybe catch a glimpse of the Millionaire and the Waitress who defied every odd. Yes, their journey had been fraught with danger and doubt, but in the end, the magic of that small restaurant and the unstoppable force of two hearts bound by authenticity proved that sometimes a single spark of connection can illuminate even the darkest corners. Thank you for joining us on this roller coaster journey through hidden motives, high-stakes drama, and an unexpected love that blossomed against all odds. Jonas and Claire's story reminds us that genuine connections can form in the unlikeliest of places, and that true courage often arises when we stand together in the face of adversity. If you found yourself cheering for their triumphs, caught up in the heartbreaks, or inspired by their resilience, please support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you more captivating, dramatic, and heartfelt stories just like this one. So spread the word. Let friends and family know about this tale.